Okay, we're live.
Okay, cool.
So it's always good when your mic's muted. So we've got a few people joining. Thank you guys for joining. We're going to kick the show off in about a couple of minutes. So just join. If you've got any questions in relation to service accommodation, service departments, SA, rent to rent, that sort of stuff, please do drop them in the comments. We're going to run through 10 of the most common questions we've been asked in the last few months, along with a bit of a Q&A at the end as well. So you will definitely get a chance to obviously speak with Tao as well. So we'll just give it a few minutes, just see who's joining and if we get any comments. So if you can hear us, guys, please do let us know. Tao, if you want to just say hello as well, just so hopefully they can hear you as well.
Hey guys, can anyone hear me?
Okay,
I hope so.
Hopefully, yeah. Otherwise, we'll be talking to
otherwise
ourselves.
These questions aren't going to go down too well, are they?
Definitely. Aaron, how are we doing, brother? Thank you for joining. So we've got Aaron on the stream as well. One of my favorite subscribers, by the way, watches every single one of my videos and comments. So I truly appreciate that. Thank you, brother. And we've got a few more people. So guys, if you're just joining, there is a banner there. We're going to kick it off in a few minutes' time. Think of any questions you have. We're going to be running through 10 of the most popular questions, a few Q&As. I did ask people on Instagram if they had any questions, but my Instagram has been bugging out for the last few days. So I've managed to get one or two initially, but that's about it. So hopefully you guys have joined now, and then you can obviously ask me any questions that you have now. Imran, hello from Edinburgh. Thank you for joining. I appreciate that.
Hey, Imran.
Tao, have you ever done an essay in Edinburgh?
No, I haven't actually.
Okay.
No, we've got a house.
Outside Glasgow. Yeah, I think it's a different place.
Yeah. I've never done an essay there. No.
That's as good as our geography goes. Okay, so we've got actually quite a few people joining. So thank you all for joining on a Sunday evening. We've got about 18 people. Tao, if you're ready, we can kind of kickstart. And then obviously, you know, guys, this will be pre-recorded, so you can always go back and I will try and timestamp it if I get time. Sound good to you?
I'm ready when you are.
Okay, cool. So first, just a very, very quick introduction. Tao Sanga is my friend over here, my good friend and also business partner. He's the owner of the Onyx Group, and he's been doing SA for around 3 years. And he's managed over 25 properties, turning over hundreds of thousands of pounds a year. That's turnover, guys, before you start trolling us in the comments. A year. And he's also started a cleaning company alongside his management and maintenance business. So he's kind of the self-proclaimed SA king. I thought I'd throw that in there. I know that's your little title, but it's been a journey of a lot of ups and downs. We've had many problems when we started this business initially. It's not as easy as people say out there, which is why I wanted to give you guys, you know, a full, in-depth, transparent behind the scenes of what it actually is like. So we're going to go through these questions, and please do drop your questions and we will answer every single question on today's live stream. So Tao, we're going to kick it off with the first question, my friend, which is, what is SA? So if somebody's just joined and they have no idea what SA is, and I keep saying that acronym, firstly, could you explain that? And then why did you personally choose SA? Because I think there's some people, especially who watch these videos, who can massively benefit from SA.
Okay, so, well, answer to the first question is what essentially is SA? So SA is, it's service accommodation, which in a nutshell is short-term holiday lets. So where that's slightly different to, let's say you get a buy-to-let and you rent it out to a normal tenant who has this for 6 months. Obviously they have tenant rights and all this kind of stuff, etc. But with SA, it's almost where they don't have tenant rights because they're just staying there for a night, or they're staying there for a week, or they're not actually legally bound to live in that property. They're just sort of renting it almost effectively like a hotel. So service accommodation, or SA, is holiday let, where you sort of kind of put it on a platform like Airbnb, Booking.com, your own website. I mean, there's many of them. HomeAway, there's Expedia, you can even put it on TripAdvisor or Google, which is actually a really good one, where people can actually book your accommodation. They can do it for a weekend, they can do it for a single night, they can do it for a week or a month, or they can actually even do it for 6 months if you know how to market it correctly. So that's effectively what SA is. It's a holiday let where you pick your prices and you choose what you want to charge on for that particular night or however long it is. Why did I choose it? That's a good question. So I chose it. Actually, I didn't choose it. I sort of fell into it in a weird kind of way. So when I first met Aaron, I was kind of looking at like HMOs and stuff, like sort of rent-to-rent HMOs. And I struggled a lot. I couldn't get HMO anywhere in the area in like where I'm kind of focusing, which is Birmingham. Could not do it. I don't know why. And it got to the point where like I almost thought, well, this is not going to work. So forget that. I'm just going to go back to my day job. And it was like I went to a landlord and I went to an agent and they said, look, we don't have no HMOs, but we got an apartment. And I thought, oh, apartment, SA. I know SA. Okay, I don't know everything about SA, but I can kind of figure it out. I can fill the gaps in. And that's how it happened. And then it just literally just sort of like I got two originally because they gave me two. They gave me a 1-bedroom and a 2-bedroom. I had a management company who used to manage that for me. And that's where I started to learn everything from there. So I chose it accidentally, but I chose it because of the cash flow. Because for me, it was more, I didn't have a lot of cash physically because I spent a lot of my money on training courses. I think I spent about 15 grand or probably 18 grand on training courses before I even had anything.
That's more than me.
Yeah, my bank balance was in a negative, to be completely honest with you. And then I sort of just opened that up and learned from it and just grew the business from there. Because for me, it was cash flow. And I chose SA because I wanted to build it up to the point where I can start using that money to get assets, which is a proper buy-to-let or houses, and eventually get into developments and stuff like that.
Brilliant. Okay, thank you for that. So the reason I asked Tal that question, because I know there's a few of you out there who may not have as much capital to obviously start in terms of investing in property. SA, rent to rent, the reason it's sold by many people who sell courses that Tal happens to buy and spend a lot of money on is because, again, it's got a low barrier to entry. So you can normally get started between a couple of £1,000, essentially, depending on obviously the area and stuff. And we'll run into the costs a bit later on and explain those to you guys. So by having that, if you can cash flow positive and you can get it running and it is a business, guys, then obviously you can profit from that. So yes, if you can't just go buy a buy-to-let or do a commercial conversion, for example, it's quite enticing to get into. But we're going to try and show you some truths and some pros and cons, which is the next question, Tal. Just off the top of your head, if you can just give a couple of pros and a couple of cons, that would be really useful, just so people know what to kind of expect.
Okay, so let's go. Well, what do you want to do first, pros or cons?
So if you can just give me like the best 3 pros about what SA, so maybe somebody watching this can think, actually, that resonates with me, for example.
Okay, so the pros are, I think you've actually nailed half of them anyway in your last statement. Pros, one of the biggest pros to SA is it's low entry. You don't need a lot of cash to get started. So you need anything between 2,500 up to 8, depending on your area. So obviously, it genuinely does hinge on your area. It depends on the type of the property, but it's a very low entry to get into it. Another pro is it's cash flow. So you can be getting something between, I don't know, again, always hinges on the area, 400 or 500 a month profit after all your expenses. You could even get 1,000, 2,000, 1,500, 1,200. So it's always constant cash flow. And bear in mind, this is profit. So those are 2 of the biggest pros to it. The third pro is when you start to build it and you start to get to, like, say 4, 5, 6 properties or 6 different units and stuff, that's when you can almost say, do you know what? I'm making enough money now where I can actually either, one, get out of my job or reduce my hours down. Because again, it hinges on what people want. Some people might actually really genuinely enjoy their job, or they just want extra cash flow. So it always hinges on what people's expectations are. But those are my 3 biggest pros to it.
Yep, excellent. And some cons as well. By the way, Richard, thank you for that question as well. And Yasmin for your question. I am noting all these questions down, guys, so we will answer all those. So Tal, just very quickly, 3 cons of SA.
Cons are it can genuinely drain you. It can drain you, especially at the start. And
it's not passive, is it?
No, it's not passive. It can be passive, but because it's a business, as a business owner, you have a sense of responsibility in that business. There's no person in this world that I know to date who has a business who's not actually involved in his business. Unless someone can show me that person who's got nothing to do with their business, then fine, hats off to them. But personally, SA is a business, so you're always attached to it one way or another. This whole old cliche that I used to hear back in the day, you can run SA off your phone. You can't run SA off your phone.
Yeah, absolutely.
You cannot run SA off your phone. You've got to have, at the start, you are hands-on. You're there scrubbing the floors. You're doing this. You're learning absolutely every single thing, every single nook and cranny to understand how the business operates. Once you get to that stage, that's when you can start to, get a cleaning team into it, and you can get this into it, and you can start to build your systems into it. Then you can start to branch off, and you get another department. Unless you want to go the easy route, which is you just get a management company to do everything for you, which obviously I run. One of the biggest management companies in Birmingham. So the cons are, it is very time consuming. It can be very stressful. And it's not always positive, and what I mean by positive is positive cash flow. There's times when you will make a loss. You don't make profit every single month because SA is seasonal. So when you have areas, for example, where I'm based in Birmingham, January, February, March is usually a quiet season. So that's where we anticipate that in January, everything falls off. So we don't make any profit in January. And if we do, we take it with a blessing. Otherwise, we make a loss. February, make a loss. March kind of breaks even, and then it starts to creep up. And the same cycle happens in around about October, November. Slightly different this year, obviously, with COVID and everything that happened. But I don't know what's going to happen next year. But those are the three cons that I would say. Stressful, it's time consuming, and it's not always profitable.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. And thank you guys for dropping some really good questions. So I've been reading the questions, Tal, as you've been speaking. Okay, cool. Not really been listening to you that much. Obviously, I know everything that you're saying.
Never do.
I don't, to be honest. Okay, so we're going to put question 3 on. We're just going to quickly run through this. And then I think it's fair that we answer some of the questions for some of the people who have joined the live. So I'm really grateful for that, guys. Also, if you can smash the like as well, it certainly helps this channel out. So Tal, how much money do you need to potentially get an SA apartment based on your experience, in terms of, if you can just give us some figures in terms of the cheapest apartment or house or whatever it is to the most expensive, just so people have got a ballpark figure. And we're operating predominantly in the West Midlands, right?
Yeah, that's where I'm going to operate, because I can't really comment on something like Liverpool, Manchester or London. It's a completely different ballgame. But based on my area, which is Birmingham or the West Midlands, for me to get an apartment, I've actually just got one a week ago, and it's already we already had someone coming in, which is quite cool. The initial rental was 1150, so 1150. Because of my experience, I didn't have to put a deposit down, which is great. So I don't have cash tied up into that deal. I had to buy furniture. The furniture mounted to around about 6.5 grand, I think it was. That was beds, wardrobes, cutlery, TV, rugs, pictures, artwork, all that kind of stuff, and photography as well, because you can't really do an SA apartment without a professional photographer. So whatever you do, if you're trying to cut corners, do not take pictures on your phone, even though you think that you might be the best photographer in the world. Just get someone with a proper camera to take a picture, because trust me, you cannot do it on your phone. So you're looking around about, I'd say comfortably around about 8,000 comfortably. And that's if you didn't have to put a deposit down. If you had to put a deposit down, which typically is about 4 weeks rent, maybe 5 weeks, you're probably looking around about 9 grand, 9.5, depending on your circumstances.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you. Have you ever got any cheaper than that? I know this answer, but just for the audience here.
Yeah, so the first, this one, the one that we just recently got. So because I didn't have to pay a deposit down,
So general costs, sorry to interrupt there. So your general cost is a deposit that you normally pay.
Yeah.
Sometimes you pay a few months up front in terms of rent. Also be mindful, friends, that the cash flow perspective, you need a bit of a buffer initially because normally everything's staggered. So when you get a booking on Airbnb or booking.com, for example, you don't actually get that cash until somewhat in the future. So you need to have obviously some money aside. So this is why we kind of, those numbers, in case you're thinking, wow, that sounds a little bit more expensive. It's because you want to mitigate the risk of getting bookings and all these direct debits coming out of your bank, but then you don't have the money to facilitate that. So that's kind of what we mentioned that. So
I would normally say to anyone, I'm quite an advocate about leasing furniture. The reason I lease furniture is because furniture is very expensive, especially with the cost of everything going up and everything like that. So I lease my furniture, which means that when it comes to me getting an apartment, I have to pay the rent first, a deposit if the agent or the landlord needs it, and then I always have a buffer. And my buffer, it's my rule of thumb, which is at least 2 months worth of rent. If I don't have 2 months worth of rent sitting in my bank account, I probably wouldn't take that apartment. And then my furniture, I lease it because rather than putting 8-9 grand worth of £8,000 worth of furniture into it, I lease it, which means that it costs me £400-500 for the first month. And I've got that 8 grand to then get another apartment, right, and then another one and another one. But bear in mind, of course, when you lease furniture, it does come out your cash flow as well. So it really hinges on what people want to do. Me personally, when I first started this, because I didn't have a lot of cash in there, I leased the furniture straight away. So even though I knew that we weren't going to make as much cash flow, I didn't have the cash to actually buy the furniture, so I leased it.
Perfect. Thank you, Tal. Okay, so we're going to just fire through some questions because we are getting a lot and I'm conscious I don't want to miss them. So Tal, I'm going to put you under strict regulations that you need to answer within a few sentences, my friend. This is from Yasmin. Thank you, Yasmin, for joining. Can I ask, can you have an essay in my own home? Do you know the answer to that?
Oh, yeah, you can. You can, but you need to find out from your mortgage.
Yeah. So
whether, sorry, carry on.
I was just going to say, from my understanding, when we had the broker on the last session on the lives, he just mentioned you can get SA mortgages. So if any of you guys are ever thinking about doing any sort of short-term letting or subletting, anything like that, you have to let your mortgage provider know what your intentions are. Then obviously it's at their discretion. You can just do it. I don't advocate anything like that. I don't want, so I don't want anyone getting in trouble for that.
And also you need to let your home insurance know as well.
So
your
insurance company,
your mortgage company or your mortgage provider, and your insurance as well. Your actual home insurance. You need to let both of those parties know that you're doing a holiday let on your home. Yeah. They may be able to do it without actually even adjusting your mortgage. They might say, yeah, that's absolutely fine. I would then turn around and say, okay, cool. Can you please send that to me in writing, just so you've got something in black and white, just for your own peace of mind and your own sanity as well, more than anything. But yeah, the answer is you can do it, but please make sure that you ask your mortgage.
Brilliant. Okay, Richard, thank you for the question as well. You mentioned you start with SA, then build up to buy to let. Would you not see SA as more lucrative model over buy to let if you had cash to buy outright?
Yeah, that's a good question, actually. So I have a tendency to kind of like diverse a little bit. So I want cash flow, but also I want assets. Because remember, my rent to rent, which is what this is, it's not my assets. Yes, the business is mine, and the obviously the actual fundamentals of the business, the operations, the systems and everything, I own all of that. It's all my thing. So I can sell my business to anyone if I want, but I don't physically own the asset. So my idea is that I get the cash flow, which allows me to then purchase a physical asset, which is then for my retirement when I get older, or for my kids or my future kids, because I ain't got no kids at the moment, but future kids or whatever it is, it's my plan for the future, if that makes sense. So I always like to have several different things, because if you think about COVID hit and SA almost went dead. it completely went bust. So if I only had SA, I wouldn't have everything. I would have just been completely gone, if that makes sense. So it's always good to have a little bit of each thing, if that makes sense. But obviously I didn't have no cash, so I had to get SA to get the cash flow, to get the house and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I think it's a great question. I think what Rich is saying is right. You know, this makes a lot more than buy-to-lets. I tell you guys, having a couple of buy-to-lets doesn't make you rich overnight. The benefit of a buy-to-let, obviously, is capital appreciation over time. You know, 10, 20 years, you buy it in the right place, you can potentially double through that. So it kind of mitigates against inflation. One thing we are hopefully looking to do next year is to acquire properties and put them on an SA mortgage, as there has, well, obviously, if rates go lower because rates are going through the roof. But prior to rates going through the roof, there was a lot of, well, I say a lot, there was a few products of SA mortgages coming onto the market. So it's a lot more lucrative. And that way, worst case scenario, should shit hit the fan, i.e. we get another pandemic or anything remotely like that, you can just turn that back into a normal AST. So that's a great question, Richard. Thank you for sharing that. Next up, we got Imran, what is service accommodation? So I'll just quickly recap this very quickly. It's when you just put stuff, this is going to not sound great at all, but essentially it's like similar to holiday lets. Let's say you've got an apartment, for example, you put it on booking.com, Airbnb, and you let it out per day, per night. It's not done via a normal AST, which would be done through a normal tenancy agreement. It's done through corporate management lets. So it's slightly different, but the full answer, the better answer is with Tal, and he mentioned that at the beginning of the video. Tal, this one, I haven't read it, but it's for you. This is from J-Dub. Thank you for the question. How do you roughly price up work required when viewing a property? What is your ballpark figures for your area, for your kitchen, wiring, bathroom, etc.?
Oh, how do you roughly price up work? Okay, that's a great question, J-Dub. Me personally, I would never spend money on someone else's property. That's the truth.
We don't own it.
Yeah. You don't own it. If you're buying it now, this can come to two parts. If you've agreed with the homeowner that you're going to do a lease option and you're going to purchase it later, then yeah, 100%. As long as the numbers stack, then work it out. But with sort of like a rent to rent, which is what we are sort of talking about now, which is typically what service accommodation is, you never spend money on kitchen wiring, electrical wiring, bathrooms and stuff like that. It just doesn't make sense because you're spending stupid amount of money on someone else's property. And if anything, you're actually just letting their property go up in value and you're not going to see anything from it because all of that money that you spent could have been used to get you another 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 apartments.
Yeah, so it's a poor ROI essentially.
Yeah, I'd never put money into someone else's property unless you was actually doing a lease option. So I couldn't really work out how much it would cost for that. But if I was doing a lease option, I would then look at kitchen contractors.
I can help with that.
Yeah, obviously.
So, sorry, Tal. I was just going to jump in there because my next video coming out next week is exactly on that. So, guys, I'm going to help you guys in terms of renovations. So, I've done multiple renovations. So, just tune for that. It's only a very short video, but it'll help you in terms of how to renovate properties. So, that should be coming out next week. Cool. Just saves you, Tal, on that. Okay, we're going to do one more question. Then we're going to jump to our pre-planned questions and we'll jump back to the Q&A, guys, if that's okay. So, Suraj, what is the best way to get a property as most agents and landlords say no to rent and company Airbnbs? So, Suraj, this is a great question. And actually, we're going to touch on this, I think, one of the final questions. Is that right, Tal? So should we just hold fire ever so slightly? Because
I had a feeling Suraj was going to say that because he's messaged me on Instagram about that question.
Right. Okay.
I knew he was going to put me on that one for that one.
Brilliant. Okay. So I think this is just like a one-word answer. How passive is SA? I know you mentioned previously that if you've got the systems and stuff in place. So right now you have a cleaning company, a maintenance company, a management company. You have enough employees around that. How passive would you say it is? How many hours a day do you spend on the SA?
How many hours in a day? 24.
Yeah.
About 20. No.
Right. Okay. No. So you're lazy.
I would say typically normal 8, 9 hours roughly. Okay. But it's staggered throughout the day. So it could be an hour or two in the morning, have a long break, then a couple of hours in the afternoon, and then I might work late at night. So it's not like I'm doing a 9 till 5. I can pick my own time. So in that sense, it's quite passive because I'm not tied down working. Oh yeah, I got to do 9 till 5. Sometimes I'm up at 5 and I might work till 7, fall asleep, wake up at 10, do some more work, and then go out, do this, and then come back later on in the evening and get crack on with some more work as well. So I'd say on average, I could probably do around about 5 hours a day, roughly. In my opinion, that's what I am there.
Yeah, and obviously that's because you're trying to grow the business in terms of grow certain legs of the business. If, let's say, guys, you just wanted to get one and you passed it over to a management company, you wouldn't necessarily be doing any of that. So obviously you'd be losing some profit. But let's say you've got an apartment that you want SA'd, or you just buy a property and you want to do it yourself, put that on to the online portals, for example, you wouldn't be spending 8 to 20 hours on it. That's just explaining that because I know there's some aspiring people who want to grow a business in this game, be willing to work at it. This isn't a passive income stream. I'd almost say SA isn't a strategy. It's more of a business, to be honest. So
you can't treat SA as a property strategy. It's a
business. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Absolutely. Okay, Tel. So what are the typical upfront costs? So we've gone through the deposit, we've gone through the rent. But this is prior to purchasing, by the way. What other things should people be aware of that they need to pay for?
So legal stuff, which is you need to obviously have a company. So again, typically if you register a company online, I don't know what the cost is, like 15 quid or something like that.
I was going to say £13. 12 or 13 rings a bell.
Yeah, something around about that price. So you need to register your company. Your bank account, which is free anyway, so that's not really a cost, but those are the two things that you need, because without that you can't really have this business. You then need ICO, which I don't know I can't remember what the figure is now, but I think it's about £30 for the year. It might have gone up, but it's not very expensive.
I'm going to put you on the spot. Do you want to explain what ICO is?
Oh, ICO is it's this whole GDPR. You have to be compliant, blah blah blah. So you have to register that you are keeping people's emails addresses safe, and you're not blasting them out on the black market and stuff like that. So you have to register it, because if you take someone's details, you have to keep them safe. So that's what ICO is. Then you have your business insurance, which again, I can't give you a price on that because it varies. It can vary from different brokers. You have your two different types of business insurance. You have, what's it called now? You have oh gosh, I can't even remember what the bloody names are because I've done them 3 years ago now. So it's stuck me on my head now. I'll get back to you on that one. But you have two different types of insurances, and then you can, if you wanted, you can get business interruption insurance as well. I only found out about that halfway through COVID. So those are the typical things, but I can't really give you a cost on those because they all vary depending on your broker. I use Hiscox. That's my broker. That's my insurance company. And they gave me a great rate because they cover every single one of my companies under one policy. And I'm paying around about £80 a month, and it covers everything. Imran's actually answered it. ICO is £40. So when I started, it used to be 35, so they put it up to 40. That's why I couldn't remember how much it was, because mine's on a sort of like automatic direct debit.
Excellent, thank you. Okay, so if that thing does come back to you, I think you said something. Then obviously let us know. But yeah, again, guys, I mean, some of that stuff, I don't think many people are aware of it. It's just, just go to an agent, get one, but you need to have all the insurances and all the business stuff in place as well. You need to be running it like a business before you start. Question number 6, what are the typical profits you can expect, let's say from a 1 to 2 bedroom apartment on your experience? So currently, let's say across the properties, let's use like 10 of your properties now that we're managing in, let's say, the 2 main areas that we use. What would you say a typical profit is per month?
So I'll give you my 1 bedroom. My 1 bedroom, on average, I'm making around about £300-400 profit a month across the whole year on average. Because of course, seasonal, summer, absolutely high, winter, low, flat as a pancake. My most profitable one is this, the one that I've had now, like this customer that we've had who's booked it, and we turned over £4,500 in 1 month, and that's a 30-day booking. £4,500, and my costs for that apartment are £1,700. So for a 2-bedroom apartment in Birmingham city centre, I've turned over £4,500 and my cost is £1,700. So pretty good going. That doesn't happen often. Typically for a 2-bedroom, you're looking around about £500 to £800 a month profit in my area on average.
Okay, thank you. And then after this question, guys, I'll jump back into the Q&A if anyone has any more questions. So legality points around this. So I wanted to just bring this up for anyone because you don't use an AST for something like this. You'll get yourself in trouble. You need essentially a corporate let. And again, we did touch on this previously. You essentially need to check with a mortgage company as well. So it wasn't necessarily, I suppose, a question. It was just something I want you guys to be mindful of. Tal, we spoke just before, obviously, we came on here because, again, it was so long ago, especially when we were acquiring these properties. So would you personally ask the landlord, would you say anything to the landlord in relation to, obviously, what we're looking to do with it? What would you recommend? Sorry, what would you advise to the people listening to this in relation to that?
Yeah, so that is that's actually probably one of the best questions ever, because there's a lot of people who don't actually know the truth, and don't know the legality points behind it. You have to at least ask the landlord or the agent if you're talking to a letting agent, because of course, if you're talking to a letting agent, you're never going to speak to the landlord, but you need to make sure that that property, their mortgage allows holiday lets or service accommodation. You can't really physically check their mortgage paperwork. You're just trusting that they do it. But as long as you've got your contract in place, which is your management contract, and that states that the landlord has told you or written or confirmed that their mortgage allows holiday lets, and they've signed it, then you should be protected, or you've got some sort of protection there, because you can't physically ask them, oh, can I check your mortgage paperwork and stuff like that. But always ask, is this property allowed to have holiday lets? Have you asked your mortgage company? Have you asked your building insurance? Have you advised them that, or notified them that you're doing this as a holiday let? If they say, yep, then, and they sign the paperwork, then you should, in theory, be okay.
Perfect. Yeah, because obviously, you guys, you want to mitigate your own risks as well. You don't, if you have a gut feeling, or you don't think the landlord's being truthful and they've gone back to their mortgage company, let's say somewhere in that 3-year lease or that 5-year lease that you have, let's say, for example, their mortgage company finds out, for example, that contract with you, it's not going to be worth anything. So you could have put money into that investment. And a lot of the time when we invest, we try and get our money out within about 6 months. That's normally the kind of goal that we're seeking. So if the plug is pulled prior to that, then essentially you just lost money and a lot of time. So another question that came up, Tal, was what is the definition of leasing furniture? So do you want to just quickly explain that? I think I'm assuming you mean what do we do in terms of the furniture and what do we have? Is that the question?
Yeah, it's if they can. Okay, I'll answer.
Yeah, in terms of leasing furniture, what would you do? You would go to an external company and then purchase X, Y, and Z, or what would it be?
Leasing furniture is where you can. I mean, there's 2 ways of doing it. So you can go to a company who offer furniture, I use a great guy, so I'm going to plug him into here. Is your furniture, and his name's James Quinn. Amazing guy. He will bend over backwards for you. So I'm gonna give him a cheeky plug. I'll give Aaron his Facebook page and stuff like that, so you can put it into the comments later. So if anyone ever wants furniture, 100% recommend him, because he will get you the package. He'll do you everything, so you don't even have to worry about finding anything. He drops it off to your apartment, and they stage everything. They set it all up for you, and it's ready to go. Yes, it's expensive, of course, because they're setting everything up, but they provide everything. What you then would do is you would find a company, and there's various different companies out there. I use 2 or 3 different companies for leasing furniture, and you basically go to them. You say, look, I've got this furniture that I need to lease. Can you work out a price? They go through everything, depending on your credit rating and all that, your credit searches and your credit history and everything. They give you a rate. You then say, okay, cool. There's a admin charge, I think it is, for the first month, for them to do the paperwork. And rather than you put in 8 or 9 grand into furniture, they basically purchase the furniture off the furniture company, and they charge you a monthly rental for the 3 years. Once it hits the 3 years, you pay a very, very small balloon payment. So it's almost like PCP. So imagine when you get PCP, you get a car, you put a very small deposit down, you put monthly installments for 3 years, and then at the end of the year, you have a choice whether you want to purchase the rest of the furniture or you can just give it back. Well, you can't really give it back. You just basically give it to the landlord, or you just sell it, or whatever it is. So it's kind of like a PCP. The benefit is to it, because it's classed as rental, it comes off your tax. So because it's a rental, it's 100% taxable. Purchasing furniture isn't 100% taxable, but renting furniture is. So it actually comes off your corporation tax.
Brilliant. That's really useful point there. So Ramon has asked, hey, Aaron and Tal, when doing an essay in buy-to-let apartment you own, do you need to tell the freeholder?
Right. You can't do essay in a buy-to-let. You have to have buy-to-let is residential. It's like an AST. So you have to tell the mortgage company that it is a holiday let. It's so the legal side to it is very it's complicated. But so can you put that question back up just so I can read it again?
Yeah, apologies, I'm jumping ahead. Sorry.
Do you need to tell the freeholder? Yes, you do, because of course the freeholder of the building, you need to also make sure that the head lease allows service accommodation, or they allow holiday lets, because even though your mortgage will allow it, and even though technically you own the apartment, if the actual physical freehold doesn't, you kind of open yourself up to a shitstorm. And I've experienced it personally. I've lost 2 apartments because I was under the impression when I first started that we was allowed, because it was written, and it was only later that's when we found out that it wasn't. But we just carried on doing it anyway until they kicked us out, and now they've actually kicked us out. So it is what it is. So it's always a touchy one.
Brilliant. Okay. The CASA 1987. Does the government help with any business setup costs?
Possibly, yeah. I mean,
have they helped you?
No.
Right. Okay.
The government ain't going to help me for anything. There is a website out there which is called Startup Fund, or Startup. Again, I'll double check the link, but it's a startup website which is government backed, and they help small businesses. They can give like a loan or something effectively, but you have to do cash flow, you have to do a business proposal and all this kind of stuff. But it will allow you to actually have a lump sum of cash, as long as you've got a reason for why you're going to use it for. So you can't just go and buy a Ferrari or something like that. Like, you have to have a proper business plan. I did it originally, and it worked well for me personally. But again, there is a website out there. There's loads of companies now that are actually offering business support and stuff like that. It's just a simple. I would suggest to you just Google it. But the government itself, I can't see the government giving you grants or anything like that for a brand new business. It's very, very hard.
Okay, brilliant. So the CASA 1987. Do you buy rent guarantee policies for your properties?
Rent guarantee policies? No. However, I do buy, and I have bought, deposit guarantees. So that's how I can get away without actually paying a deposit. So my business insurance allows me to give a landlord up to £50,000 worth of damages, and that also does cover any missed rent payments, damages to the property, and it's up to £50,000. My business insurance covers that for it. So that way, rather than a landlord asking me for £1,000 or £1,200 in a deposit, they have up to £50,000. So if I decided to go ghost and turn away and then just disappear off the face of the earth, never paid them rent, they can claim it off my insurance. And I give them the paperwork for it. So they actually have to sign it. They have to do all of this. So they actually involved in my insurance company.
Brilliant. That's useful. Thank you for that, Tal.
Well, I will, again, Aaron, if you remind me, I'll put all these links into, so anyone else who needs help, I'll give them my the broker that I use for the deposit. Great guy. and I'll give them the deposit and the links for everything else as well, just to give these guys some help and stuff.
Perfect. Yeah, thank you. I think that'll be useful.
Yeah.
Chloe's asked the question: how do you deal with visitors trashing your property or not leaving on the checkout day, as deposits aren't usually taken? Thank you.
Oh, okay, right. First thing, Chloe, is
Take
great
deposits.
question. I laugh because
Yeah, we've had our fair
you know,
share.
I've had way too many. I've had people bloody steal my TVs and all sorts of stuff. So yeah, it's not uncommon knowledge for us lot. Now, the first thing is never ever let someone in your property without taking a deposit. Full stop. If you're not taking a deposit, change it now. Literally change it now. Make sure you take a deposit. How do you deal with it? The way that I would deal with, or the way that I deal with it is try to mitigate the risk. So ring camera on either the outside of the apartment or the door, or in sort of like pointing towards the door, if that makes sense, on the inside of the apartment, only pointing towards it. As long as you advertise it on Airbnb and Booking.com that there is CCTV, you're not breaking any rules. That way you can see how many people are coming into your apartment, and you know that if someone's booked for, let's say, 2 people, but then 15 people turn up, you can get them out ASAP. The other thing that I use is called Minute, or I call it a Minute device, which sits on the ceiling, and it's kind of like a sound dB reader. It's like a decibel reader, and you can put sort of like different levels in there. What that does is it comes up onto your phone, and it shows you how noisy the apartment is. So if they're playing music or they're having a party, it goes off the chain, and you know then that they're making too much noise. You can then warn them saying, keep the noise down, otherwise you're going to get kicked out. Keep the noise down, otherwise you're going to get kicked out. Now, I have my own personal security firm. So whenever
Sorry to interrupt, I'm really sorry. Marcel, you don't need to pay to ask a question. Just put it in the chat comments. I do apologize. I just saw that. I don't want nobody paying unnecessarily.
Yeah, don't pay.
Sorry, Tao. Carry on.
So I have my own personal security firm. So when we have an issue with an apartment and we can see that there's multiple people come in, we give them an hour. We warn them, saying, get out. And if they don't get out, we then call the security firm, and the security firm go down, kick them out within 10 minutes time. And they lock the door, and they've lost their deposit. They've lost the rest of their weekend or whatever it is, and they don't get a single penny back. You genuinely can't ever prevent it, but it's trying to mitigate the risk. So ring camera and a Minute device is your first 2 things to stop worry, like obviously prevent someone from actually trashing the apartment. And also just be wary about last minute bookings. So if it's a Friday night and it's 6 o'clock in the evening and you have a group of guys booking your apartment, always have red flags on, like thinking, well, why are you booking it last minute? Just think, like, use a little bit of common knowledge, if that makes sense. In my personal opinion, I don't take anyone after 6 o'clock. After 6 o'clock, we don't take anyone. No one can book our apartments after 6 o'clock in the evening on the same day.
Excellent. Brilliant. Okay. Thanks for that. And hopefully, Marcel, you found where to ask the questions as well. So where are we? We're on question 9. So we've kind of touched on this, Tal, obviously, like with problems. We've had a lot of problems, mainly with tenants and stuff. So again, like I say, with any sort of property business, it's about mitigating as many risks as possible, my friends. You want to think of what's the worst that could happen in every single scenario, and then think of how can you find a solution. So Tal just mentioned previously there that he's now got a security team in place, which helps. You can set up cameras in certain areas where you can see. I mean, we've seen some crazy stuff on our cameras, and if you could share it, which we can't obviously legally, but we've seen some crazy stuff on our cameras. But it's alerted us straight away to then realize that actually we need to get those people out of the apartment or not let them in the apartment. So just almost play devil's advocate, be pessimistic, think the worst could happen, and then think, how can I prevent this within obviously the laws and what the freeholder allows within that particular property. Problems, most other common problems. Are there any problems, how you think anyone should just be aware of if it comes to starting? I mean, I can think of one.
There's the biggest problem that you have is chargebacks. Now, that is one of the riskiest things that you can ever have. I'm not going to mention any other companies not to use because I don't want to get into a lawsuit or anything like that. But if anyone wants to send me an email, which Aaron will share later, then I will recommend the company that I use to take my payments for me. And I will also not recommend the company to use because they are the worst. I'm just not going to say this on the live. But chargebacks is definitely one of the most biggest problem. A chargeback, for anyone who doesn't understand what a chargeback is where someone actually has used a stolen card. They book your apartment. Everything goes through perfectly fine. You let the person in, and then all of a sudden, 6-7 days after, or a week after, or 2 weeks after, the person who actually owns the card has contacted their bank and said, I didn't have that apartment. And then they contact the bank then contact your payment handler, and it's almost impossible for you to actually win that case because the bank will always side with the person who's actually the card holder. No matter what evidence you've got, they'll always side with them. So a good way of trying to prevent that from happening. Now, again, it depends on how deep you want to go into it. We always ask for an ID of every single person. At first, we used to just ask them for the ID. Now we get them to do the ID and we ask them to actually take a selfie, like say, hang on, where am I? Like that. So we tell them to take a selfie of their ID and themselves. So we know that that's their ID and it's a selfie as well. We also then ask them to take, if we're nervous about it for whatever reason, we sometimes ask them to take a picture of the card that they've paid on and a utility bill. That way, I know it sounds a bit long-winded, but that way you know for a fact that that person owns that card, they've provided a selfie and they've provided the ID and they've got proof of an address as well. And I only do that if you're really, really, really super nervous about someone. If every single one of your spidey senses is tingling, then go down that route. But chargebacks is definitely one of the biggest problems that you'll ever face in SA. And there's no way around it. You just lost that money. So if you had a £700 booking, you just lost 700 quid, just like that.
Perfect. Thank you for that, Tal. And Tristan has just messaged me. Sorry, guys. I was in the WhatsApp. So Tristan is also a partner of ours, and it's professional indemnity insurance was the thing that you missed out earlier on.
That's the one. Professional indemnity insurance and public. Oh, that's it. Professional indemnity insurance and public liability insurance. Those are the two things.
Perfect.
Those are the main two things. And then if you wanted to, you can get business interruption policy as well.
Mm-hmm. Okay, excellent. So just a few more questions. Now I'm going to jump back to the questions. We've got Killuminati KO. When will this be uploaded to your channel so I can watch the start? So as soon as this is finished, guys, which shouldn't be too long now, we're going to jump into Q&As anyway very shortly.
I like his Lamborghini.
Sorry?
I like his Lamborghini.
You like the Lamborghini? Yep, it's a nice one. Essentially, yeah, sorry, try to thought. So as soon as it's uploaded, in about 10 minutes after that, YouTube processes it and it'll be available live. So guys, you can just jump straight into it. And I will do some shorts as well, just picking out some of the key areas as well. Richard, don't apologize for asking questions, guys. This is your time, by the way. I mean, I know this, Tal knows this. It's not something that we normally talk about. So we've literally done this for you guys. So if you guys have questions, it's for you guys to take advantage of this. So you're not paying £18,000 like Tal did to learn some nonsense. Okay, Richard's asked, sorry guys, last question. Where, in your opinion, is the best to set up SA? City, i.e. Birmingham, Liverpool, etc., or holidaying places, i.e. Cotswold Lake District? I think that's such a great question. It's a question
question.
What we've thought about as well.
Yeah.
I'll just give you my quick answer, then I think you're the SA king. Me personally, one thing I want to do is if I had X amount of capital, and as soon as the interest rates go down, which I'm hoping, or we get better products, more competitive products, me personally, I would put my money into the latter, something like Cotswold or Lake District, and I'd try and buy a property where I'm the freeholder. The only problem with stuff like City Centre, Birmingham, Liverpool is they're predominantly leasehold. With leasehold, you've got extra costs and sometimes you've got more hoops to jump through. That's just my personal opinion. However, Cotswold and Lake District, Peak District, all them kind of places, they're quite unique. So the prices are going to be quite high in terms of acquisition. But whereas like your city centres and stuff, at the minute, like Birmingham, to buy we were looking at a 2-bedroom apartment. We always look every time we go and speak agent. It's ridiculous. Like the ROI, we'd need our best month over and over for a good 4 or 5 years, and that's just too risky and too much capital to put in to a leasehold. But Tao, do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah. So Richard, I mean, bloody hell, great question. My personal opinion is it really depends on if you're managing it yourself. If you're giving it to another management company, then city centre like Birmingham, Liverpool, Manchester, Leeds, they all work great as long as you can find a great management company that can manage it for you, who understands the market. Then city centre you can never fail with. However, places like Cotswold, I love Cotswold. Went there with my fiance, is best place ever. Places like Cotswold, Lake District, as Aaron said, they never go off season, and you can get a lot of money for them. So we went to Cotswold. We went to not Cotswold. We actually did go to Cotswold, but we went somewhere else, and we actually got an Airbnb as well. And it was a great person who had an Airbnb outside of their property, and they charged us £700. Actually, no, it was £900. Sorry, I think it was, for about 3 nights. And that was just because it was off season. But during season, she was saying, "Oh yeah, sometimes I can make £1,500 on a weekend," and that's just 2 nights. And that was in the middle of nowhere, because people go there. And the great thing about those places is you won't have massive amount of parties, because people who go to Cotswold or Lake District are just people who genuinely want to have a nice time. They want to have a weekend away. They want to spend a week away. So you'll have really, really great guests there. But definitely, if I have the opportunity to go to Cotswold, I'll go there. I'll bite it off with my hand.
Bite it off with my hand.
Bite it off with my hand. That doesn't make sense.
That is, I've not heard that one before, but yeah.
Okay. That one before. That's the first.
Yeah. Okay. Brilliant. So guys, we're going to jump straight into the Q&As. Just a couple of people asking, will it be recorded? It will go straight onto the channel afterwards, guys. Somebody also mentioned more lives around buy-to-lets and stuff. My goal is to bring you guys the questions that sometimes I might not be able to answer, and sometimes it's nice to have a fresh perspective. I want to get a tax person on here as well, and an accountant, so you guys can set up your businesses perfectly. You haven't got to go out and pay hundreds of pounds for, you know, consultations and stuff. I will get you all the information that you need. All you got to do is like the video and obviously subscribe. Imran's asked a question, which actually we were going to touch on at the end, so I'm glad somebody's asked it rather than us just throwing it in. Are you guys open to accepting business partners on future ventures? I don't mind being a passive partner who just provides funds. Now, I have just got a note here. So this is what I was going to put pretty much towards the end of it, because I didn't want this to be the main focus of today. So what we've started doing recently, so as many of you know, my main kind of like work is acquiring properties, renovating, bringing stuff to life, and new builds. Towers focus more on the cash flow side of the business. What we currently are doing now is, in the last 6 or 7 months, because we're in crazy times, as many of you know, cash flow is king. We all need to kind of keep ourselves afloat, and we found a strategy. We have benefit from economies of scale, and we've got a good business in place where we can make some good returns. So we have done number one, which is return on capital invested. We can offer 6 to 10% per annum, generally speaking. That it obviously depends on what the investment is, how long they want it. Do you want it get paid monthly? Do you want to get paid quarterly, 6 months, or at the end? Obviously, if it's at the end, generally we can increase that percentage because it helps us from a cash flow perspective, as we mentioned today. The second is a JV profit split. So we've done this recently with a few people where that person has paid for the whole, there's no sourcing fee. It's just the cost of acquisition in terms of deposits and stuff like that. And then what we would do is then whatever profit that makes, we go 50-50. So if it makes $1,000, that's 500 back to yourself at the end of the month or however you want it, and then 500 back to ourselves. And that will be for the duration of the lease, which is generally speaking 3 years. And then the other one is source and manage. Now, the reason it's manage as well is because we've got great relationships with estate agents. We don't want to be those guys who get an apartment and try and sell it for 4 or 5 grand to somebody else, because firstly, if you mess that up, it messes our reputation up, and then that estate agent isn't going to give us any more properties. So we need to be conscious that we have control and we trust our own, we've been doing this for many years now. So it's a management thing. So that essentially, I take nothing from it. That's solely Tao's bread and butter. He'll charge a management fee for that. Obviously, he's acquired it. We won't charge a sourcing fee for that. But essentially, then you've got your there'll be sourcing for that. He'll charge only the management, and then whatever the profit is, let's say it's £1,000, that will go solely back to yourselves.
Yeah.
So if, of course, that is of interest, please do email. I'll just leave that on for a few seconds. And what I want to do now is jump into the Q&As and then answer all of the rest of the questions that you guys have got. But that's the email. Is that the right email, Tal? Yeah? Because I got it wrong earlier. Okay, perfect. Okay, so I'll leave that on there. If anyone needs it, I'll drop it back in the comments. But Illuminati, Birmingham based, we are. So predominantly all of ours are in Birmingham. However, we are in the process of looking to go to other areas as well. So we've touched on areas like Derby, Sheffield and things. We want to try and, again, anything we make now, we're trying to put it back into the business. Anything you want to add on that, Tal?
That's it. Yeah, we're branching off to. I've obviously mentioned Tristan earlier, which is the business partner in the cleaning side, and obviously now the business partner in everything else that we do as well. So it's kind of like a dream team of everything, basically. So we're actually branching off into like Derby, Sheffield, Nottingham. Eventually, we're going to go into Liverpool, Manchester. I'm avoiding London like a plague because I don't want the 90-day rule. It doesn't work for me. It's too complicated. But then we'll start branching off into other areas as well. Perfect.
And I think, guys, I've gone through most of the questions. If I've missed your question, please do nudge me. But there is one question from Tito Tato. I love that name. Views on the property crash on the horizon. Wait for a potential bargain or invest now and trust in the long-term growth of house prices. So I talk about this a lot on the UK updates that I do. This is the $1 million question. The truth is nobody knows. I have my own opinion. I'm happy to be proven wrong. You know, I'm not an expert. I've been doing this for 10 years, but I always learn something every single day. What I would say is I don't think it's feasible that house prices continue to rise. I think we need some sort of correction. I think we're going to see a lot more pain just generally like across, you know, the economy, recession and stuff. I think next year we know that over 2 million people have to refinance their properties. And as much as I don't want this to happen, it's going to happen. There's going to be repossessions. People are going to have to downsize. People are going to have to sell. They're going to need to move, just to live. So there's definitely going to be opportunities. Now, the problem is if you're sitting on capital now, what do? There's an opportunity cost with everything. If you've got 100K now with inflation, what is it? 11, 12%? Last time I checked, you're losing that every single year. So it's just sitting in the bank. But to buy a property now with rates at 4, 5, 6%, not worth it. It's disgusting in terms. Yeah, exactly. You're not getting the greatest return. So what you could do is sit back, hold on to that cash and wait for potential opportunities in the next 6 months when people are refinancing. But then who knows? Could there be more stimulus packages? Could the government intervene somehow whereby we don't get that correction that we're all expecting? And then you've just wasted 6 months. So this is the problem. There's an opportunity cost with everything. I think if anyone makes the right decision now, it's based on a bit of luck, if that makes sense, because nobody truly knows. What I'm doing personally may be completely different to you guys. I already have 2 live projects in new builds, so I don't need to necessarily go out and buy a new project, which is why I'm focusing more on the SA stuff. So I'm keeping my cash now. Any cash I have, I'm saving it in the hopes that when I see these properties come, then I'm going to jump onto them, because I need to be making sure that if there is a correction, we don't want you guys falling into negative equity. So if you are going to buy something now, at least try and make sure it's at least 20, 25% below market value, which I know is easier said than done. This is what a lot of people say, but that's what you want to be getting, because as a worst case scenario, should property prices drop, then at least you've mitigated the risk there. So that's just my gut feeling in the near future. Long-term properties, in my opinion, always going to go up unless something drastic happens, unless people don't need houses to live in and they start miraculously building more land. So I think long term, yes, it's going to be great. I just think at the minute we're in, nervy waters.
Funny stage at the moment. It's kind of like, do I do this? Do I not? It's so complicated to try and work out what you're going to do, but it's a hard one. It's a really touchy subject, isn't it?
Absolutely. And here's a question for you, Tao, and I think this is a great question as well. I apologize. I think I missed this one. Chloe, thanks for the really helpful answer. Sorry, one last question. Please don't apologize, guys. These questions, this QA is for you. How do you market your apartments?
Oh, great question. I mean, 100%. Great question. So the 2 biggest platforms are Booking.com and Airbnb. 100%. They're the 2 largest platforms. Now, you'll hear on Facebook or whatever platforms you're on, like Instagram or something like that, you'll hear everyone, or you'll start to see people saying, oh yeah, you need a website, you need to do Google marketing, and then you need to, oh, I can help you with Google, I can help you with AdWords. Let's face it, you are never going to have a budget bigger than Booking.com and Airbnb's marketing budget. It's not just not going to happen. I'm not saying don't get a website, but you can't compete with Booking.com and Airbnb. So I would always suggest putting your first two platforms is Airbnb, Booking.com. Then try and build your website after it. Don't spend too much money on Google ads and stuff like that. It's just genuinely not worth it. And whatever you do, try not to pay someone to do your ads for you, because you're just throwing money down the drain. Just stick your website online. And if you know someone who's savvy with AdWords, great. Ask them if they can help you out, if there's a family friend or whatever it is. Then branch off to the next two, which will be Expedia and Home and Away, which is actually called VRBO now, I think. So, but definitely 100% start Airbnb, Booking.com. Those are my two go-to platforms. I don't even have a website anymore. I've closed my website down. I've literally, my website isn't even live anymore because we're still working on it. But I'm still getting bookings coming left, right, and center.
Yeah. I think I just want to say, if you're a newbie in this game, and let's say you want to go solo and you want to try this, obviously Booking.com, Airbnb, that's like your Rightmove and your Zoopla. That's the most important places to be. I think try and differentiate yourself initially, because let's say you release an apartment today, you're going to be competing against some of our apartments. Let's say you want to come to the city centre of Birmingham instantly, because we've got more reviews and we're ranked higher, you're gonna struggle. So initially, I mean, these are some of the things that Tower did back in the day. We used to have to reduce our prices, for example, get people in, entice people to leave us reviews, a little bit like when you kind of start a business. So what I would recommend to you guys, and this is why I'm so adamant on social media, is use social media. Sometimes, like, if you can post something and you can start building a following, or you can incentivize people, I've got an apartment here, if you book it for you and your family or something, we can give you X, Y, and Z. It's free marketing. Like, people don't realize that Facebook is free. Well, people obviously realize that, but people don't realize you should use it as a marketing tool, like LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, all that sort of good stuff. Share it out on their bookings as well, just from not even Airbnb and Booking.com, just from like socials as well.
Different things that you can do. You can use Booking.com promotions. You can do Airbnb promotions. Think about what is the next biggest event that's coming up is Black Friday. What do you think I'm going to do on Black Friday? I'm having a mega sale. However, the way that you be smart about it is I put my prices up, put a massive sale on, which means that I don't actually lose anything, because it looks like the customer is going to get a 50% discount, but in reality, I put my prices up. They're going to knock the 50% off. It's kind of like the same price anyway. So it's just being clever about how you do stuff. But Christmas markets, German markets in Christmas time, New Year's, those are the next biggest events. Black Friday, 100%. Facebook, Instagram, and if it's a brand new apartment, I would say show everything that you're doing, setting it all up, doing this, and show all your pictures and everything. Literally just have your camera and just like rotate around the room and act like a clown. Like just be you, just literally be you. That's what I did.
Yep, and it worked. Okay, so this is slightly just off on a slightly different topic. Marcel Wallace, hi gents, I'm about to rent my house, but I have concerns if the tenant does not pay. What can I do to protect myself? That's a great question. So I've had multiple tenants. Fortunately, 99% of them have always been great tenants. Just some tips. If you're really, anxious about it, for example, let's say you're using a management agent, you can get rent guarantees, and obviously they'll take more of a percentage. The benefit with that is they're going to be doing a lot of due diligence, and they're going to do a lot of vetting around that procedure, because remember, they don't want the hassle, especially if they're offering a rent guarantee as well. They don't want to be putting their hands into their own pocket. So you can do that, but obviously that will affect your cash flow. If you're managing a property yourself, then it is literally a vetting process. You can get references from people. You can ask them for their credit reports, for example. You can ask a guarantor if you're not sure. You want proof of employment, and I know it's quite intrusive, but you could say, bank statements. Would you be happy to provide something that shows that that person is capable of affording that rent? Those are the kind of things that you can do. What I will say is, though, we're in a people game, and as many of you know, people, we're all emotional creatures. Sometimes certain things happen in certain people's lives that sometimes you can't predict how somebody's going to react 6 months down the line, 9 months down the line. So you got to trust your gut feeling, mitigate as many risks as possible initially. don't have that thing where, you go into analysis paralysis where you don't actually do anything. So just try and tick off as many of the things that you possibly can. Worst case scenario, get yourself a guarantor or just give it to an agency. And at least with that agency, if you've got a rent guaranteed, it'll just give you peace of mind for the foreseeable future.
Yeah. The insurance that I have for my deposits, they actually offer rent guarantee as well. So it's a different service, but they actually offer that. So I'll definitely 100% just remind me, and I'll put that in the link. And they offer several different things. So, but one good thing to do on that last question is always ask the tenant what day they get paid, and then make sure that they have a standing order set up on the day that they get paid.
Good luck with that. Good luck with that.
I know. It's hard, but
yeah.
If they get paid, the first thing that comes out is your rent, or their rent comes out. Because if it's 4 days later, they're going to go parties and bloody blow all the money on everything. I mean, you know about it more than anyone else. So
Absolutely. So we kind of touched on this, Chloe. If you want us to just expand on it, we can a little bit. But the best engine to market your essay on, and how do you stand out from the crowd? I know you've done little quirks and stuff with like Onyx apartments to kind of stand out from the crowd.
Yeah, so when I first started, it was just kind of like keeping it simple, keeping it basic. But as time's gone on, I realized that the market has sort of grown massively, and they do quite cool different things. So I originally made like one of my apartments, I made a feature wall, which was made out of real wood. And then Tristan, one of my business partners, he then did he actually then leveled it up, and he did a feature wall, or he did multiple feature walls, but colored walls as well with like wooden battens. And then we've done the same thing again, and now I've done another apartment with feature walls, but I've actually got my logo printed onto it. The latest apartment is we've actually physically got the Onyx logo cut out of wood, put onto the wall, and it's got LED strips behind it. And again, it's the reason we've done that is because when people go on booking.com, they can see Onyx, and because we're on Google, they know, okay, cool, Onyx. And also marketing as well, every one of my titles say Onyx, 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 Onyx. So all you got to do is just go Onyx Apartments Birmingham, Google it, you can find my number, you call them, and then all of a sudden you get 15% discount, or typically you get a massive discount from a booker's point of view. You can't actually put your number in the picture because booking.com will probably most likely take it down. But if you have your logo and your name and your brand, 9 times out of 10, people will find you on Google. So it's really just a case of looking at what your competition is. So Chloe, for you, I don't know what area you're in. I would say spend an hour on booking.com and Airbnb, Google your area, look at the competition, see what they've done, and see if you can make it better than them, because that's how you stand out. So don't follow the trend. Think, okay, cool, everyone's got whitewash walls. I'm going to do something different. I want to have a blue wall, a green wall, an orange wall. I want to make it stand out a little bit better. And then stick it on Airbnb and booking.com, and I can almost guarantee you'll get better bookings than them. Personally.
Brilliant. Okay, so guys, if I haven't answered your question, please do quickly give me a nudge. I think we've answered predominantly everything. What we can do, I think one popular question actually I did have here was negotiating with estate agents. So if you guys are interested in that, I think it's going to be more of a long-winded answer. I don't want to do any acting or any sort of role playing. I actually hate that. That makes me more anxious than anything. So I'm not going to be doing role playing. But what we could potentially do is, if you guys want as well, is maybe get Tal back on and we just talk about how to negotiate with estate agents. So me and Tal have been into letting agents and estate agents, and we've managed to get ourselves apartments, and it's a lot easier than you guys may think. We haven't worn shirts. I've gone in sometimes with a hood and a jacket.
I've gone in shorts, haven't I?
You have gone in shorts, yeah. Some crap shorts as well. Some really weird shorts that Tal likes to wear sometimes. But yeah, like we've gone in, and again, it's a people business. If you can get on with the people, if you can say the right stuff and deliver on what you say you're going to do. If you guys want to know about negotiating, please do let us know, and obviously we can come back with content around that. No problem at all. So
what we could do with that is actually, I know the thing is we can't even do it it's a shame we can't do it. Is if we did a live of me going into Birmingham, into an estate agent, into talking to them. But
it's the recording that's difficult. Yeah,
The only downside
what we
to
can do is we can almost write you guys a script. I mean, we're happy to do that, you know, like a script. And these are the kind of questions, if you get any objections, for example, because I know a lot of the time before you go into an estate agent or letting agent, you've already told yourself 100 reasons why you can't get that property. What you need to do, and this isn't some like weird mind Jedi trick, is just think about why you're going to get that property or why you could potentially get it. All you need is somebody to be, what you got to do is you got to solve pain points. So how do you solve a pain point of a landlord? How do you solve a pain point of an agent? The agent needs to make sure that, you know, they're not going to be messed about. They're going to get what you are saying you're going to deliver. The landlord, all they care about is the rent at the end of the day. If you can showcase that you're competent enough and, you know, you've got a successful business that's doing that, then you can do it. Now, obviously for us, it's a lot easier because we went into one agent and straight away she was like, oh, there's some nice apartments here. And we were like, yeah, we run 7 of them. And then instantly that was like, okay, you guys know what you're talking about. If you're completely new, you don't necessarily have that. But what you can do is show a bit of, and we'll teach you these tricks, a couple of things that will just make you stand out from the crowd so you don't look like a complete amateur coming off a course. So we'll definitely add that. I'm just having a quick look to if there are any more questions. Okay, so a few people have asked for that. So let's definitely do that. Guys, if you can, not giving you guys homework or anything like that, but any objections or any concerns around this particular topic, let me know the questions here on Instagram. My Instagram is bugging at the minute. Hopefully it'll be okay soon. But drop it here or even email Tal and then we'll come back and we'll make a short video for you. But I think that's all the questions that we've got. Tal, can you see any more questions? Is there anything you want to just finalize with?
Can't see anything, but someone did ask me before. It wasn't on this live or anything like that, but they asked me before about subletting. And they asked if it's like subletting it's legal, isn't it? So I just want to really briefly touch upon what subletting is. So as you guys all know, it's what I do is rent to rent, which effectively is subletting. Now, subletting isn't illegal. It's only illegal when you don't have the owner's consent or you haven't told the owner what you're actually trying to do. So for example, we'll use Aaron, for example. He's got a property. I've said, Aaron, can I rent your property off you? And he's like, yeah, of course you can. Yeah. So I pay him a rent. And he's thinking that I'm staying there with my, fiance and whatever it is. That's what in his mind, that's what he's thinking. Now, what he doesn't know is that I've stuck it on Airbnb and I'm letting random people coming in. He hasn't consented me to do that. That's illegal. That's what subletting is when it's illegally done, because he has no clue what is going on in his property. Where it comes legal is where you've got the consent. So I've said to Aaron, can I rent your property off you? Okay, yeah, cool. It's not for me though. I don't want to live there. It's for, I'm doing this and, I'm renting it out. It's short term. I've got corporate clients. I've got contractors who stay. I do it on Airbnb, booking.com, and I've got my own website. This is everything. If Aaron then turned around and said, yeah, that's fine. I'm happy with that. I've got his consent, which means that it's completely 100% legal, as long as Aaron's mortgage and insurance and everything allows me to do it. So someone mentioned that before, and I just want to touch on that because everyone has this fear of subletting. It's not, and estate agents always say, oh, you can't do that because it's subletting. It's not subletting unless if you've got the owner's consent.
Yeah.
So just make sure that people know about it. That's all. Or make sure that the estate agents knows about it or the landlord knows about it. That's all you got to do is just protect yourself.
Brilliant. Just 1 second.
Be nice to do the show if we can get live callers in. Oh, okay.
Yep. So this is a great addition. This is what I was actually going to do on my last video. So guys, if you're ever interested, we can do, I can just send a link and I can get up to 10 people in here. So we can have if you guys want to join in a conversation, ask questions, I'm more than happy to do that. So yeah, let me know if obviously there is one question here. I just want to quickly bring that up. Subletting is illegal if you are a social housing tenant only. Subletting without permission from private landlord or agent is a breach. Absolutely. Yeah. So it's all about just doing stuff the right way. There's always a way that you can do it. Yeah. But thank you for sharing that. Okay, guys, I think I'm going to call it there. Tal, I'm going to let you get on with your evening. I'm going to let you all get on with your evening. Thank you guys so much for tuning in today. I will take on all your points. We will come back with negotiation tactics and we will allow you guys to join in on the conversation. I think it'd be great to get you guys jumping in, asking questions, and we'll try our best to obviously help you, save you guys some money so you can actually invest it and then go on and change your lives. So Tal, thank you for obviously joining as well. And thank you guys.
Appreciate you for having me on. Thank you, man.
You're welcome. You're welcome. See you guys later. Thank you.
See you later.